The SIIM History Committee presents an interview with Dr. Joseph N. Gitlin. This video is an excerpt from an oral history project of the SIIM History Committee. The committee works to establish resources, document oral histories from imaging informatics pioneers, and to build a reference library of items of historical import for imaging informatics.
The other fairly important thing to discuss is the development of the ACR-NEMA standards. And I know, Joe, that you had a significant role in that. And I'd like, if you would, to explain a bit about what you did and how you helped foster the whole effort.
At the federal government level, 1972 was a landmark because the first computed axial tomography, CAT scanning, was evaluated here in Rockville by the then FDA Radiological Health Organization and approved for human use. But the important developmental idea associated with this was the beginning of digital imaging, at least in radiology. CT was in fact the first real development that showed you can produce digital images directly. A number of us got together and talked about the problems in the institutions that had installed CT. It furthered the idea of what we've been thinking about in the RISC days, and engineers and technicians and radiologists who really understood what the problem was began to understand that it was not a standalone event. It was going to grow both vertically and horizontally, and other machines were going to come along. It was important that different machines be able to communicate with one another, and that computers be able to talk to imaging equipment, and most important, that manufacturers be able to have their equipment communicate without any loss of real proprietary information, which was a big hurdle. A great story at the Radiological Society of North America meeting in '92, when I think we had our first real demonstration of the potential of the standard to communicate among disparate modalities and also different manufacturers' equipment. My German was still pretty good from my assignment in Wiesbaden, and I overheard the CEO of Siemens Medical talk to his representative that was serving on the ACR-NEMA committee. He said, the display of that image, which was a Siemens image, on a General Electric display, tells me they have stolen our proprietary information. So fortunately, the Siemens rep explained to his boss in German that there was no loss of proprietary information. It was the standard making it possible for this communication back and forth. I knew enough about German to be able to say to the CEO, I hope you understand now that we took great pains to be able to communicate without giving away any proprietary information. And I said, and the next experiment you're going to see is a GE image will be displayed on a Siemens display. And he rushed to go over and see that happened, and he shook my hand and said, I am satisfied. So many of these hurdles took weeks and months to overcome, but we finally had general agreement from all the sources, the governments, the industry, the American College of Radiology, and lots of academics to really give high priority to the development.
And I might ask, why the FDA? In other words, why? I understand why the American College of Radiology was involved, because it involved the users, and the National Electrical Manufacturers Association because it involved the manufacturers. But why the Food and Drug Administration? Can you comment a bit about the relationship of the FDA in terms of regulatory versus voluntary standardization efforts?
Getting that group together to talk about the need for standards in the very early stages, emphasized with the approval of magnetic resonance 10 years after CT, and everybody really began to understand there was a serious communications problem. I was appointed by the director of CDRH to be liaison with the interested groups. The problem was then well defined to all the major groups, and off the record before the meeting that actually occurred in Rockville, where everybody agreed on the standard, the condition of participation generally was that it would be a voluntary standard. And knowing that in advance, John Vilforth, who actually chaired the meeting and called upon me to speak, I went to the Smithsonian and I borrowed the metal hand protector from the old armored warriors, and I borrowed a very nice glove from one of the ladies in our group, and I made my remarks on the basis of, do you want the iron fist or the velvet glove? The agreement to develop a standard on a voluntary basis was very successful. That particular meeting, each had a group leader, and they went through the motions of going off on their own 3 groups and coming back with a report saying, we agree to participate in the development of a voluntary standard and really object to a mandatory approach. John Vilforth was prepared to agree to that, and he, within a week, had gotten formal approval from the Surgeon General on up through the hierarchy to have the organization participate in the voluntary standard as well, which was very unusual in the federal government, but it worked. And then over the years, the Rad Health representative was always present at important meetings.